Shalom. Parshat Re'eh begins with the words, "See, I present before you today blessing and a curse." It's all about vision, and you'll be able to see when you hearken to the commandments. But what's really going on here behind the scenes? Moshe Rabbeinu continues with his exhortation. He's preparing his beloved people, the children of Israel, for the day that he will be departing from them. They will be crossing the Jordan, going into the promised land. But there's so much more to it than that. Who is he addressing? The children of Israel. Everything that they've been through in the desert as individuals. They were just recently slaves to Pharaoh just a few years before. And the whole experience that they're having in their desert wanderings, it's like practice. It's like being in a holding pattern. They're preparing for the day that they are going to be crossing the Jordan, going into the land of Israel. And he's really addressing them now as a group of individuals. But what does it take to transform this ragtag bunch of former slaves into something else altogether, that they're going to need to be, that they're called to be as a destiny when they will cross into the land of Israel? Of course, we can learn a great deal throughout the entire book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, the things that Moshe Rabbeinu chooses to emphasize in his review of the Torah. Mishnah Torah, the sages call this book. It's a repetition of the Torah. There is a review of many of the mitzvot that have already been presented to the children of Israel, and there are also new elements that are inserted. And in this week's Torah portion, in Parshat Re'eh, there's something very singular and unique going on. We have, for the first time, the expression, the place that God will choose. B'makom asher yivchar Hashem. The place that God will choose, a reference to the final resting place of the Shekhinah, to Jerusalem, to the place of the Holy Temple. This phrase appears no less than 7 times in today's Torah portion. And now, in Parshat Re'eh, for the first time, we are being introduced to the concept of temple consciousness, that the people of Israel are going to be coming into the land of Israel, and there everything is going to change. Their entire relationship with each other, as we'll see, and their focus, their take on life, their relationship with God is going to change, because it's going to be centered on the consciousness of this one place, unlike any other in the world, that Hashem is actually choosing for all time to become the dwelling place of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence, and to become the place from which goes forth the knowledge of God to all people. And the children of Israel are going to be playing a pivotal role in the knowledge itself going out through them. So here in the Torah portion of Re'eh, in the beginning of chapter 16, we find something very unusual, which really emphasizes this dramatic point of transformation, of transition that they are now in, going from a group of individuals and becoming a nation. Because here in this Torah portion, amongst the things that Moshe is emphasizing to Israel, we have a review of the cycle of the year. Chapter 16 begins with a review of the holidays, the pilgrimages, the whole cycle of Pesach and Shavuot and Sukkot, and Moshe ostensibly reminding the children of Israel that when they will be coming into the land of Israel, they will be keeping the calendar, the cycle of the sacred seasons of Hashem. And this, of course, is a reflection of the previous parsha, the previous section in the Torah, where we learned about the Chagim, where we learned about the holidays, the festival observances, and that, of course, is in Parshat Emor, in Leviticus, the book of Vayikra, chapter 23. There we have the entire cycle of the year. That is the classic teaching in the Torah regarding the calendar. Parshat Emor, Leviticus 23, begins with Shabbat, which is really the source, the microcosmic capsulization of the sanctity of time. It goes from Shabbat, and then we have there the description of the entire year, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, all of the Chagim. And what's really interesting is that in today's Torah portion, Moshe doesn't mention Shabbat. He doesn't mention Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Shmini Atzeret. It's only the 3 major festivals of Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Why? This in itself is an amazing insight into what is happening right now, and into this moment of transformation, which is totally centered on the consciousness of the Holy Temple. And really what it boils down to is Shabbat, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, these actually are observances that are very much an aspect of an individual's relationship with God. I mean, all of us, we have two sides to us. There is our aspect as an individual with our personal relationship with the Almighty, and then there is our place amongst the nation and amongst the world. And these are two different elements altogether. And sometimes they seem to be at loggerheads. A person might have a very, at least the way we look at him, might have a very wonderfully developed, pious, righteous walk as far as his own individual relationship with God. But the test, according to Torah, of a person's mettle and how we really judge that person, the gauge of his real relationship with God, is his relationship in society. His relationship, his responsibility towards his people and towards the world. And it's really two different levels. So actually, this concept of Shabbat, of the recognition of Hashem's renewal of creation, and even the time of Rosh Hashanah, as far as judgment and responsibility, and Yom Kippur, these are actually, in a way, very personal things. And also, Shabbat and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, they were observed in the desert. They were observed by all of Israel. They could be observed in the desert. They could be observed anywhere. But coming into the land of Israel, it is the experience of the pilgrimage, the Aliyah L'Regel, going up to the Holy Temple, first the tabernacle in Shiloh, and later the eternal resting place on Mount Moriah. It's that experience of the pilgrimage on the three major festivals that forged this group of individuals into a nation, because it's that feeling of togetherness, it's that experience of converging at the place of the Shekhinah that really brings home to Israel the concept of who they are as a people, as a nation, as one, unity. And so now, as Moshe is essentially preparing his beloved children of Israel for the day that he will no longer be with them, they will be crossing over the Jordan and going into the promised land without him, he's essentially relating to them now as the beginning of a nation and reminding them that they are no longer going to be thought of as individuals as they were in the time of the desert wanderings. And it's no longer a question of the individual relationship with Hashem, of Shabbat, of Rosh Hashanah, of Yom Kippur. It's a question of their identity focused completely on their consciousness of Hashem's presence in their midst. And so no wonder, as he is choosing very carefully throughout all of these parshiot, and in today's parsha of vision, of Re'eh, choosing what to emphasize, because now they are becoming a nation. He's reminding them that when they cross into the land of Israel, they are going to be making that pilgrimage together as a nation on those major festivals, Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot, that really have very little meaning, if any, outside the land of Israel. Their entire characteristic, their entire nature, their entire structure is totally focused and connected to the experience of living in the land. And now, in our time, when we are faced with so many existential challenges as far as our existence in the land of Israel, as far as our right to claim the land of Israel as our own, as far as questions that are raised in the murkiest corners of the globe regarding our sovereignty as a people, as a nation in our land, how it behooves us to hear the words of Moshe Rabbeinu and to understand what's going on between the lines, that the secrets to our nationhood, to our identity as a people, is coming into the land and being focused on the place that Hashem will choose. Small wonder that in this week's Parsha we are first introduced to this concept that there will be a place unlike any other in the world, in this land, that God will choose for his own. 7 times we're told that in this Parsha. And then, when we are focused on God in our midst, and when we go up to the temple, and when we feel the sanctity of that place as a nation and we are centered on that consciousness, then this verse from this week's Torah portion can come to pass. For you are a holy people to Hashem your God, and Hashem has chosen you for himself to be a treasured people from among all the peoples on the face of the earth. And when we are totally centered on our responsibility as that chosen people, and when we realize how much our nationhood is dependent on that place that he will choose, then that blessing of the divine presence can flow out to the entire world.